Okay, good afternoon everyone. It's Conomics here and it's the 1st of December, and today I'm delighted to be joined by my fellow Old Instonian, Mr. Colin Ferguson, from the Durham University. Delighted you could come and join us today, Colin.
Great to be here.
And look forward to what you have to say to us later on.
Excellent.
So I've already made reference, Colin, to the fact that we're both from the same school.
Yes, we are indeed. We are indeed.
Old Instonians.
It's a small world.
It is indeed.
We kind of find each other, I think, no matter where we go,
Yes.
as Old Instonians.
Indeed. Could you maybe just tell us a little bit about what brought you to Durham Uni and how you actually ended up staying in the Northeast?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think it kind of started with, kind of having a very wide idea of kind of what I wanted to do. At the point that I was applying to university, I had lots of ideas about what I might want to do, where I might want to go, and I was prepared to consider lots of options. I made a real effort to sort of explore those options. I actually came across to England, visited a number of universities, talked to people, explored my options, and it ended up that Durham, just for my personal preferences, really came out on top. The combination of the subject that I was looking at, which was psychology, where it was in the rankings, the way in which the degree was put together, the content of it, and then also Durham City itself, where the university was, how it did what it did, all of that was very personally appealing to me. And me personally, I kind of like the idea of getting away from home for a bit and sort of spreading my wings. I think there are lots of people who are like that.
I think there's lots of people who leave and then just they come to Newcastle and they don't go back again.
And that is kind of what I've done. I've sort of accidentally ended up in the Northeast. It was never kind of a long-term plan. I've always been at a point in my life, I feel where I'm saying, I'm not sure what I'll do next. And every single time that kind of question has been asked, it's been, well, I'll stay where I am right now. Certainly since I've come over here. I love the Northeast. I think it's a wonderful place to be. And I don't see myself going anywhere anytime soon.
Yeah. Well, same here.
Yeah.
Same here. So, Colin, we were just chatting there earlier. We've got the this is the Good University Guide for 2016.
Yes.
Durham University. In the rankings, I know we've talked about rankings and maybe you want to say something about that. But anyway, Durham University, the Times describes it as the Northeast's closest version of Oxbridge.
Yes.
Durham University appears here in the rankings number 5, up from number 6 last year. So clearly a tip-top university to go and study at.
I mean, certainly in terms of if you go off those rankings, yeah, it would seem so. I think that it's a very flattering description that the paper decides to give us. Some definite similarities there. We're obviously a collegiate university, although the way that we do the collegiate thing is ever so slightly different. So certainly in Oxbridge, it's very much a case of the colleges do the teaching and everything else, whereas we very much see a kind of a dividing line there. So our colleges don't do any academic teaching. They're there for everything else, for the social aspect, for the extracurricular stuff, for pastoral support, all those kind of things. They're provided by colleges, and that leaves our academic departments free to do all the things that we think they do best, the teaching, the research, and that sort of thing. But certainly, we would think of ourselves and hope to be, a leading university. I'm delighted to see that we've moved up from 6th to 5th. But as you kind of allude to, I do have a certain caution about rankings, because I think that they are certainly an important thing to look at, but they're not the be all and end all. And from my own personal experience that I mentioned there, going and seeing places and getting a feel for what it's like and seeing if it's the kind of environment that would actually sort of work for you as an individual when you're applying. I think those kind of things are really important, and that doesn't really come out in the same way, in the likes of the rankings here. So, great, but I don't think it's the kind of
don't put all your eggs in one basket in that respect.
Yeah.
I mean, we do have a lot of students going out visiting various institutions at the minute, which is obviously just exactly what you would recommend, really.
Definitely. One of the big things I talk about is making informed decisions, and one of the ways that you can do that unquestionably is actually going and seeing a place. Whenever I was doing my looking around and doing my research, I remember one place that I went to see, very good university, but I just didn't get the right feel for me But whenever I went to Durham, I did get that feel.
Yeah.
And I think that's a very personal, a very subjective thing. And I think, you know, that's why there is value in, you know, going on things like open days, taking in summer schools, you know, talking to people that you know who have possibly been there, anything that you can do to get an impression of what the feel for the place is like.
Okay, great link into the next question as well, Colin, in terms of
unintentionally,
summer schools and so on. So you've been into school before for us to tell us about the Sutton Trust.
Yes.
And summer schools and so on that Durham University run. So, could you just run through that again so we've got a little record of what the sort of the criteria are for applying and who's eligible and so on?
Yeah, so we are one of a number of universities, I think the count is 11, and this is the point that I always try and name them, that run Sutton Trust summer schools. So there's ourselves, Cambridge, Bristol, Nottingham, King's College in London, UCL, Imperial, where else we're going? St Andrews, Edinburgh and Warwick, and and the Royal Veterinary College. Yeah. The Royal Veterinary College is the other one. We all run Sutton Trust summer schools. The eligibility criteria are exactly the same for all of those summer schools. The subjects that are on offer might differ a little bit from place to place, and the dates and format of the kind of summer school weeks certainly will differ. But we offer them. We run 3 separate weeks in August, so first, third and fourth week of August I think it will be for 2016. It's aimed at Year 12 students, and the application process will be running sort of in the new year from the 8th of January. Okay,
and where do students look to apply to that?
They'd be looking for the Sutton Trust's own website. So the Sutton Trust is an educational charity. They do a lot of the kind of the central running of the scheme, and you apply through the Sutton Trust to one of the universities. The website that you're looking for is summerschools.suttontrust.com, and you can find out more information about it. You can find out how to apply.
Excellent. I'll put a link. I'll put a little link up down below here, ladies and gentlemen, so you can just find that. No problem. Okay. And are there, in terms of the eligibility criteria, does it go on postcode, or you know what your parents do for a living, or whether or not your parents have gone to university, or
we look at a range of measures. You know, there are some key things. So you have to be a Year 12 student when you're applying and studying at a state school. You have to be under 18 on the first day of the summer school. And then we start to look at a range of other criteria. So we look at academic performance. And the criterion there is 5 A-star or A at GCSE in any subjects. Okay. We obviously will take into account alternative qualifications there as well. We then look at whether or not your parents have had any experience of higher education. Now, certainly, you know, one of the key things that we're looking for there is if you are the first generation in your family to, or could be the first generation in your family to attend university. That's one of the key things that we're looking at. We will look at school performance. So the school that they go to will actually sort of be considered, and that's in terms of a range of measures. The one that we're looking at in Durham is the average A-level attainment across the cohort for the school. And then the last one we look at is a postcode measure. So we're looking at rates of progression to higher education in the kind of the local area that an applicant comes from. And if they're coming from an area where, you know, a disproportionately low number of students are actually going on to higher education, that's obviously a kind of a point in favour.
Right, okay, excellent. And just sort of students go to Durham, they're really interested in it, decide that they're going to put that as one of their options for university place. In terms of the application process and UCAS, we've been talking just a little bit about personal statements and so on. Yes. Could you maybe just say a little bit about how important that personal statement is in the overall picture?
Yeah, I absolutely can. You know, I actually have gone all around the country talking about personal statements. One of the things that I talk about probably most frequently. You know, I think Durham is very common to the vast majority of universities in terms of you know, the way it treats the personal statement, how it looks at it. and where it kind of fits into the application process overall. So, you know, within that, I would say that, you know, it isn't, you know, the most important bit in the sense that, you know, we're not sort of putting any additional weight on it or anything like that. We like to look at an application as a whole. It's a very holistic process for us. So we are looking at, you know, GCSE attainment, you know, A-levels or equivalents, we're looking at the personal statement, the reference, everything gets taken into account. But the truth of the matter is that quite often the thing that actually puts daylight between one candidate and another is the personal statement. Good. So our recommendation is to try and answer 3 very clear questions. The first one being why you want to study the subject. I mean, that has to be absolutely clear from the outset, almost within the first sentence, if not the first 2 or 3. You know, a real clear motivation, and there's no right or wrong answer for that, but it has to be there. The second thing, which is probably, and the second question, you know, is probably going to have the fullest answer, is what the applicant has done in the past to make them particularly suitable to study that subject. So we're looking here at things like summer school attendance, for example, extra reading, you know, particularly if you're wanting to study English or history, you know, we're going to want to see some additional reading there, possibly a project that they've done, possibly a project that they've done, possibly work experience if it's relevant, and I think relevant is really the key word there, because all too often I find that work experience gets mentioned because it, you know, applicants feel it ticks a box. But that's not how personal statements are read. Where work experience is relevant, it's great to mention it, but there are some subjects where it's very difficult to get that kind of relevant work experience, and that's okay if it's not mentioned. So there's all sorts of different things that you can do there, but one of the key things, no matter what it is that an applicant chooses to speak about, it needs to be something over and above what they're studying within, you know, the classroom, normal syllabus, syllabus, all of that kind of thing. They've got to be bridging the gap. They've got to be trying to demonstrate that they're doing something a little bit above and beyond.
And what about in terms of what you were saying, in terms of what they shouldn't mention, because you as the university or the admissions officers already know X, Y and Z about the candidate?
Yeah, so one of the things that we quite often see is that we get a list of the subjects that they're taking, and then we get a description of what's happening within those subjects. So, you know, I'm studying history at the moment and we're looking at these particular things, and we actually know that. Because as soon as you put a subject down on that list of qualifications that you're taking, you know, our admissions selectors know what that means because they're familiar with the school curriculum, and they don't need to have that explained to them. That information is already there. The personal statement is valuable because it can actually tell us something that we don't already know.
Okay. And the candidates, of course, they have quite a limited character count, so don't go wasting your time, really.
Absolutely. It has to be concise. It has to be you know, very, very highly targeted. One of the things that they can't miss is that third question, you know, which is really trying to interrogate the extracurricular activities that they're getting involved in. You know, quite often we'll see that actually gets missed out entirely. But certainly Durham and many other institutions as well are looking for some evidence of extracurricular engagement. And there's no right or wrong answer there either. You know, it can
be as long as you're doing
anything at all. Sport, music, drama, volunteering. You know, part-time job, no matter what it is, something that says that you've got a little bit more going on, you know, than just
a bookworm.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay. Very valuable information, ladies and gentlemen. Something that we try and stress here a lot. This information about the personal statement.
Absolutely.
Okay, great. Now, when we were talking there about the qualifications and so on, talking about candidates of such and such in terms of A-levels and so on, but you also mentioned their equivalents as well.
Yes.
So we at school we do 1 or 2 Btec subjects, and I'm just wondering in terms of Durham University and how would they view those in terms of a candidate who's got 3 A-levels as opposed to a candidate who's got a Btec and an A-level?
I think we need to be really clear there that certainly in terms of how we're looking at it within Durham, you know, we have no particular kind of bias within how we're looking at these things. So there is no advantage or disadvantage conferred to an applicant on the basis of the particular type of qualification that they're taking. You know, we have very clear qualification equivalency tables. that you can view on our website that says that if you're taking, say, A levels, this is what we'll be looking for, but if you're taking Btecs, this would be the equivalent. You know, quite often if you're taking Btecs, we would be looking for at least one A level alongside that.
Right.
You know, but certainly, you know, it isn't the case that if someone applies with Btecs we will automatically kind of disadvantage them or anything like that. It comes back to that holistic process that I mentioned. We see qualifications of all sorts of varieties, not just UK qualifications but international ones as well, and we work very hard to make sure that we are trying to treat everyone as fairly and equally as possible, and that means having the qualification equivalencies, you know, looking at how students do whenever they're coming into the university with particular qualifications and treating all of that information accordingly, but there's no advantage or disadvantage, certainly not.
Okay, that's great, really good to, really useful to know. And then I think just finally, Colin, you'll be glad we're getting towards the end. Just finally, obviously from my point of view, here at school I'm interested in the economics side of things and so on, and we were talking earlier just about how the whole world of university education is becoming a real global market in that respect.
Yeah.
Maybe just tell us a little bit about that in terms of how campuses are opening in various places and various links, not just nationally but internationally as well.
Yeah, I think you'll find that, you know, the what's happening within higher education, certainly within the UK, but even sort of globally, is changing quite a lot. And that's happening in all sorts of different ways. And one of the ways that that's happening is that we're seeing universities open these satellite campuses. So you'll have some universities opening a campus down in London, for example, even though they actually are based mainly at somewhere else, but also starting to open global campuses. So, you know, Nottingham has a campus in Malaysia, for example. Warwick is looking at opening, you know, campuses, all sorts of, you know, things going on. You know, all this sort of thing it's a big melting pot now, and I think the key thing there is it's a global melting pot. So one of the things that you could say actually is that you know, as an applicant now, you really do have a wide...
The world's your oyster.
Yeah, the world's your oyster.
Yeah.
You know, and increasingly students are looking abroad for their degrees. But it also means that, you know, within the UK, we're looking to, you know, diversify the student mix. So if you come to university, you're more likely to be mixing in with international students, which I think in terms of student experience is a fantastic thing.
Yeah.
But it really is a changing market, and I think it's increasingly... you know, a global market where universities are not just looking at what's happening within their region or within their particular country, but they're also looking at what's happening globally and internationally.
Yeah. It's interesting. It's the sort of the globalization in education. It's not just businesses and so on. It's all public services now are sort of moving in that direction as well. Okay, right. Well, that's I think that's me done here, Colin. It's been great to have you in today.
Great to be in.
Be really nice if you could maybe, if we can keep this link going hopefully, and maybe get one or two other things going in the future as well with the uni. That'd be really useful. So thank you very much for coming in today.
Thanks very much for having me.
Thanks for watching everyone. Stay tuned. See you again. Bye.